Welcome to Duncan Thorin Shield's YouTube channel. I managed to con Duncan into convincing his friend to pay me thousands of dollars as a professional Counter-Strike player, so maybe he can convince you that some of his analysis is correct.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Esports Mount Rushmore, and my guest for this one is going to be SPUNJ, who is obviously a colour commentator, analyst, depends what he wants to do, but he's doing all that stuff, and he used to be a pro player. Insert all the jokes. Here's the thing, he was. All I'll say is this, I'll give you your flowers on this one. Listen, he was a pro player who did actually get all the way from Australia to North America, was living there and playing in the pro scene. So, listen, all I'm going to say is a lot of people criticise. Not that many Australians have done that. Not that many have actually made the jump. Some of them, I won't say names, but some of them might get shipped back the other way soon. We'll see. That's just haterism on certain players. I don't like now. Right, here's the thing though, Chad. I always say this little preamble at the beginning. Even though I called it Esports Mount Rushmore, obviously it's not just the 4 best players of all time, because in CSGO especially, that would be very boring. And I don't even know if there would be 4 different. There would be 3 that would be permanent at this point in time, so it'd just be garbage. So instead what I do is, I do like a theme. So it's like a themed Mount Rushmore. So what do you want as your theme for this one? Because it's going to be CSGO we're going to be doing.
So my theme is, I guess, the greatest showman in CSGO. But I feel like it needs to be fleshed out a little bit because that it can be thought of from multiple different perspectives, right? We're talking stage Counter-Strike, which has only really existed in CSGO. I know we had, bigger events and stuff in the 1.6 days, and even when I was in the...
Yeah, but even then the camera didn't go to the players and didn't go and he didn't see the red light. You couldn't do the karrigans, etc. You're right. The only in CSGO existed.
Yeah, like the CGS stuff was so manufactured that it was like fake, right? Whereas the stuff in CSGO, actually embracing the crowd and doing all that kind of stuff, it's a big part of it. And I think also part of my showman bleeds into maybe players who individually would perform things that are just out of this world and entertain as well. Because
to also be flashy in the server as well, right?
Yeah, so you don't have to qualify, in my mind, in both, right? But you definitely need to bring the aspects of one or the other. And I think that it's a topic where, there have only been very few players who have ever really been able to, focus, continue at a high level, and also be, a crowd pleaser, somebody who understands that this is, as much as it is a competition and we want to work out who the best teams are, this is entertainment. And that's a big factor, I think, that kind of get missed a little bit by a lot of the Counter-Strike players, right? They're there, they just do their job, they keep their mouth shut, they don't do interviews, they don't offer any of their personality. And that has definitely been something which is, I would say, hampered our growth in a little while.
Yes.
We need more players talking shit. We need more players bigging up the crowd, being the heel, being the enemy of the state, or being the hero. So there's some names here that I've been thinking about, and I've been tossing and turning on a couple, and I might need to ask your opinion on once we get to number 4. Maybe you can help me, because I might even have a bit of a cop-out one, which is where I've ended, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. By the way, if people don't know, in general, sometimes they just send me them, so I can't do it. When I've seen it, I can't mind wipe it, can I? But in general, I tell people, don't tell me the 4 names, and we'll have fun. Obviously, then I'll be wondering if I know the 4th when it comes up. By the way, just an aside, I would be remiss, Chad, for the meme potential, if I didn't ask you. You are Australian, and you have picked The Greatest Showman. People don't know. Look up Hugh Jackman, The Greatest Showman. It is a movie that did come out. Is that a pure coincidence? Is that pure coincidence, Chad?
No, when you messaged me about this, and I was watching the Kassar one, and I was trying to think, okay, what is something that I don't think anybody else would pick? What is something that other people probably wouldn't go with? That's something that I've always quite enjoyed. Is that? So when I was thinking about it, the movie definitely popped into mind. I'll be honest. I was like, this is a little bit on the nose. It's a little bit on the nose, but I think it's a fun one, or it should be.
The good news is, I don't think a lot of CS fans watch musicals, quite frankly, Chad. So I think you're probably safe on that one. Here's the thing, though. I have to ask you an initial question as well, which goes like this. Look, you obviously weren't in that many of the big playoffs, so you didn't get the chance to. But this is something that was important to you as a pro player, right? I mean, look, without making it reductive, you were known for your hair, wearing the Australian flag, trying to sort of be So, I mean, even when people meme on you, which is, by the way, the reason players are scared, when you said that whole thing, no, people are saying we're shit, and then you got 16-0. You kind of did try to lean into this in your pro career, right?
Yeah, I think the CGS definitely helped with that, because when I was essentially picked over the other guy, we're sitting on this is back in 2008, we're sitting on the hotel room floor with like the GM of the team and all the other players like Booms, Tags, Huck, Top Gun, and the contract's in front of us, and we're going to sign this, and we're talking about why they've picked me over I think they were going to pick a guy called Papa John, who was like a 1.6 player. Okay. He was pretty good, right? They were going to pick him, but essentially the reason they picked me, and not the explicit reason, like obviously I still need to be able to contribute in the server, but my personality was on display at this like national event where, I'm standing up and shit talking, and they, said I looked a little bit better on camera. So unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, I learned very early on in my pro career that this is entertainment, right? Like as much as I love the competition side, and that's where I get my adrenaline and everything, you're coming from a region where you're going to struggle to be the best, right? But back in the CGS days, mate, when we were doing that source stuff, we were the best in the Pan Asia region. We were fucking dumpstering everybody. Like that team that Boomser had with Top Gun and Huck and Tags, like I came in for the second season only. We were fucking destroying everybody. But we were doing gimmicks when we were coming out for like the big finals in LA on DirecTV. Like me as the new boy, I'd come out, I'd push these 4 big lads, bigger than me as an 18-year-old Chad, and I have this sponge, and I actually have the picture on the wall.
Actually was a real sponge, right? Is this where it all came from, right? I see. Okay.
Yeah. I learned from that point and that's when I was first like properly paid, as opposed to just like little prize money. Like this is like proper paycheck from DirecTV. It kind of stuck with me from that point. And that was advice I even gave to somebody when I did that Gfinity gig, when I just really started becoming an analyst in like 2017. I remember Boaster was there, and I gave him like similar advice, like, hey dude, like you know, it's going to be hard to be the best player, but if you can be entertaining and good, like you can make a space for yourself. And I look at him in Valorant. I don't really follow it a lot, but he's the top of the charts.
People don't know he's like Cadian times 10. He's doing a great job. Yeah, he's learning K-pop dances, everything. It's mental. Yeah,
a bit more kawaii, you know.
True.
He's got all the so, yeah, but it's fun to watch, and I think that it also helps like for general viewers, maybe not hardcore Counter-Strike fans, to get involved, because there's a personality and that they can either invest in or invest against, and that's just as important. So it's something that, I guess you were alluding, or no, you weren't alluding, you were talking about the early CSGO days, and it was the same thing. I think I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder as well, because people didn't really give any credence to our sacrifice that we were making as a team to go over there. So I got a bit more pissed off when the comments would come through, and a lot of them weren't based in anything, right? But it was pretty comical to like make those statements and then get fucking owned. But I don't even think that, that it could have gone much worse, right? That's all right. Everyone's gonna get like, just look at Ents the other day. So it was a fun time. I think back on it, and I wish that I was a bit more of a well-balanced like leader and human, so that I could have balanced those things out better. But look, what happened, and I think that it definitely helped put me on the map as a Counter-Strike personality to end up where I am today. So, players who are known in the community for being a bit more than just a good player can have more options when it all comes to an end.
I think there's a bit more setup we can do for this topic. So I'll ask you this, which is one of the things, since you're talking about outside of the server, especially when you said for like the trash talking and the storylines, it's actually, in my opinion, still the most misunderstood thing by professional players. Like, I won't name names out at the beginning here, but put it this way. Actually, fuck it, I will. You know what? There's one that we all know. Do you remember the story of why Config didn't get into Astralis? Where he literally told, like, Zonic in the interview, like, I just want to frag, bro. I don't want to do any media. And it's like, that's not the world you live in. Like, this isn't soccer, mate. You can't just be the guy who scores 20 goals. Like, in this world, it's all just viewership right now. It's all sponsorship. We don't have any other revenue. So right now, actually, like, really, we do need, like, the joke is, and the stupidest thing of that is this Config, like, mate, you'd be brilliant at talking shit. Like, actually just be yourself, mate. Just go out there. Look, you're going to get into some trouble, but it's going to make you spicy, like you're saying. And the problem is, though, a lot of pros don't get it, mate. So there's two parts to this. One, the worst example I've ever seen of this, you were there, so I remember talking about this, is we remember the major final of PGL Stockholm. So we've just come out of the online era, right? We have this major final, and it's Nico against Simple. So first of all, amazing. One of them's guaranteed to win the major. They go out. They're even the two players, remember, who come out and they talk to Bax for the interview. And all I need, guys, is just a couple of lines, and you would set that place on fire. Instead, even though, by the way, they're not like best friends or anything. They did the opposite. They downplayed it. I remember them saying, like, and do you have anything to say to him? And it was like, I just hope we both play well and, the winner deserves to win. It's like, no, you're supposed to, in that moment, be like, listen, Nico, you were a great player, but only one of us can win the bit. If you do that, by the way, this is some legendary shit. Like, that place would have just blown up completely. But instead, these guys, they thought I'd just frag essentially. Like, in fact, they actually want to downplay the storyline. Like, as someone who's a showman, that kind of angle, they do miss that, right? A lot of really good players don't know how big they could be in that sense.
Yeah, I think I don't want to make excuses for them here. I definitely think that the lack of English as a first language hurts a little bit, and then getting vilified by the community, no matter what they do, right? That was a tough thing. Like I struggled with it. I still struggle with it now when I wake up and there's fucking terrible remarks, right? But the thing is, these guys, I guess they have such big profiles that they don't want to upset people. But this, you put this aside, like if you're able to insulate yourself from that, give your fucking phone to someone else, give the login details to someone else, and just play. And then when you're out there, you can actually express that personality a bit more. And then you're going to be, you like you're saying, it's going to make it better for everybody because sure, they're fucking competitors, mate. This is the thing. When I hear that bullshit, like, oh yeah, we just hope the best team wins. No, inside. And when you beat that fucking guy in a clutch and you're talking shit about him to your teammates, this fucking idiot, like, I knew he was going to, you're trash talking. Like, the clutch that I lost to Freakazoid, that one that you love so much, he was talking shit to me. Like, he was like, I knew he was going to do that. I knew he was talking shit like that. And that's the thing. That's the fire in the belly. This is a competition and you want to go out there and fucking destroy your opponent. Like, that's not, even if you are friends, right? You can still have the fire in the belly to want to beat them and talk a little bit of light trash. You don't have to go out there and say something like crazy about their mom or some bullshit. Like, that's where it's like schoolyard shit. Like, this is, you can base it in reality. You don't even need to manufacture anything. You just base it in the reality of what we're doing, and it will make it more exciting for everybody.
I will say, as a sort of a final little topic, and then we'll jump into the names. One thing I'll say on this is as another part, because if any pro is watching, there's some pros watch. Here's like a really good piece of advice as well. I actually agree with Chad. In general, the best way to do it is just be authentic. Like, if you don't like the guy, say it. If you like them, by the way, make it like funny. Something like, make it like, I'm going to have to beat my legend and kill him. There's so many ways you can do it and still even be respectful. But I will say, if you are someone who has the balls for it, and you are like a Cadian type character, if you are willing to do a bit of the fake shit, but do it well and do the WWE angle, this is the one area, and I'm going to say this now because I'm pretty sure Chad would agree with me and most of the analysts would. If you want to do it like wrestling, literally, don't just flame us and then hope we get it, or flame us and actually make it right. If you actually just DM'd like Chad and told him essentially like the cash is, oh my God, if I said that, like one of those things, if you just message Chad and say, listen, mate, you've said that we're going to lose this next match, we're probably not going deep here. So I'm going to tell you basically, nothing at the end of this tournament, I'll say it, right? But you're sort of setting up behind the scenes. We can do this in public. It can be fun. And at the end, look, it depends how cool you are. If you're insecure, maybe at the end of the event, we all agree to go. It was just jokes, of course. Great. Or maybe it just keeps going. Maybe you build it as like some big rivalry. Could be like that. Spoiler, the reason I also say this is I'd love to do that. I've actually told my friends who are pros, you can do that if you want. Like, if you JW, talk shit, you mate. The problem is when the ones do it where like they all mean it there. I won't name names, but the ones who just come at me, it's like they actually are just triggered. Like, it's not fun for them. So I even think that's an area where I know the broadcast would love to work with you. If you're a big name player, they would love to have a little storyline like this. Because again, if we DM behind the scenes, we all know it's banter at that point in time. No one has to take it personally. In fact, like maybe some recent scenarios, you probably all laughing behind the scenes. Like, can you believe they actually think we hate each other? Like, fuck, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I think even just in interviews, straight shooter players, like Snappy is a great example. Somebody who would just speak his mind, and some of those things would be considered controversial, but it's just his opinion and the way that he views things and like his actual opinion on something. And if anybody should be able to express that, it is a live, active, especially tenured player who has all like this is like I remember the podcast when I did with Snappy in my home. I thought that was a banger because the type of nuggets that he's giving are just like, some of the things are like, oh shit, like, oh fuck, like, and it's stuff that we use a story. This is why, well, I don't know how much we want to get into this, but this is why.
You get info from the players, basically. Like, spoiler, I didn't really guess, Sponge, that like Spinks wasn't being used right in Vitality. I sort of had the best guy ever to tell me how to use Spinks, if you know what I mean. I might just give it away. That you get the point, though. Yeah, we do have some inside info where we build our storylines, of course.
Yeah, and it helps a lot, right? Because then if we get those little nuggets and we can use them, and I love the stuff like I talk to Justin all the time, and the way that he talks about like eco hunting players. I wish he'd talk about that.
I love that shit. Yes,
I wish he would.
Yes,
it's so good. Like I hear the venom in his voice, and it reminds me like, oh shit, yeah, I remember those type of players. I remember how much like they were the fucking scourge of the earth.
Everyone hates them.
We all, yeah, and I wish he would just like get a little bit of that, but now actually, Justin's actually getting better in the interview stuff.
He's gradually,
yeah.
So who's the first name then, Chad? Who we start with? Because the other good thing you've done here is because you kept it like it could be either. Now there's about 20 names. They'll probably all be in the chat. So who's the first name we're going with?
Going with karrigan as the first name, right? And I think that I could go so many different directions with this. Like from the interview front that I was just discussing, like with Snappy, karrigan basically sets the narratives that he wants to have for his tournament and his team in the interviews that he's doing. He's saying like, these are the things that it'll be this. I will have won in every title, or we'll have won this, or we'll have won that. And the way that he speaks about that sets up the storyline for all of us. So we're all invested, first of all. But then if people don't remember karrigan, obviously 1.6 player, he used to have that. He had a cowbell. He had one of those fucking things.
Football rattle.
Around his head.
Yeah, the old school.
He had all of that, right? And it was just to be, in the early days, just to be obnoxious to your opponents, but also great for your teammates because, when you're winning, there's a whole lot of noise coming out of your camp and everything's going nuts. And then he was able to take that, which is clearly part of his personality, which I think is very key. This is not karrigan just deciding one day, I'm going to be this type of person. It's saying that he already was. And he carried it with him and then embraced it on the biggest stages of Counter-Strike, where he's now in front of thousands upon thousands of people, and he's the fan favorite everywhere somehow. In Australia, FaZe, fan favorite, everyone chanting his name. He's singing with the crowd. This is just the other weekend. They're out there, like they're in a tech timeout. He's singing with the crowd. He's doing the clap. You've got him out in Poland. He wears the hat. He goes to Denmark. Well, he's obviously Danish. He knows German. So in Cologne, they love him. Like he has it covered, mate. And he knows exactly what he needs to say and what he needs to do to get that crowd support, because that's that extra fucking 10% that you and your team need to get over the line in those matches. And that's not to talk about when he knows I'm taking a tactical timeout and we're about to do something fast as a motherfucker. I'm going to do this clap over my head. We're going to rush topside on nuke. They're not going to hear me. We're going to be in that bomb site and we are going to obliterate them, and it's a key round and now they're on eco. He's the type of guy who is thinking so many steps ahead and so many layers and is playing to his audience. And I think that is amazing. I think karrigan is like the best example of this theme tonight. Like he for me is the full package from that as an individual, because he covers every single base with it. And I and then to perform and then to still do it now as what, a 33-year-old man. I can go out there, I can be a larrikin, I can make some noise, I can do all that nonsense, but then to be able to call as one of the best in-game leaders of all time and to still be able to perform in some of these big matches and be finding the entry kills and keeping the team calm, like it's a full package. And karrigan's my first submission here. I can't, I'm gushing over the man, but I think what he's done is amazing and a great, not a template, because if anybody goes and tries to copy, it's going to be too obvious, right? You don't want to be a copy of anybody anyway.
Yes.
You want to do it in your own way, but he's kind of shown and led that way and shown that like it's not obnoxious. You don't just have to go out there and be a dick. You can be the hero and be entertaining and have all these people on your side and make Counter-Strike more interesting for the viewer in the arena and at home.
Yeah, I have to say this would be my number one pick if you asked me this topic. Easily, karrigan, the GOAT of the showman in this sense, because I think you nailed it as well. I've always said this, you can actually tell which esports people have had like enough camera time, basically. So I always say the advantage in CSGO is if you're in a playoff team and you go to all the lands, you're going to get like 100 times more camera stage thing than the guy in League of Legends. He has to go like Worlds or something, and go like the big moment. And even then, it's like the modern day pros. I won't name names, but think of some of the players in like teams like Ents and stuff. You put the camera on them, the light goes red. They don't even look at the camera. They're still just like, and then they give the, and then the next round. This guy, this is what's crazy to me. I think, look, it's a good example to like try to emulate, but I agree. You're going to have a hard time if you're anyone else being like karrigan in this sense, because the craziest thing, as you mentioned, is this. He can not only be calling the game, so he must be still thinking about the last round and what's going on next, but then it's like he sees that light go red, he switches, He does his showmanship, great stuff, but then he goes back. Like, how he can operate like that is crazy to me, because I do think some of the other names, I don't know if they're going to be on this, I won't say them now. Some of the other people out there who are great on the cap, sometimes I can see maybe that does get in their head or their teammates' heads, but how he balances it is bonkers to me, mate. Like, this guy has mastered it. I'm with you.
Yeah, I that just has to, it has to come with the reps and just the comfort, right? And that is why I guess when we talk about FaZe as a whole, we talk about them as like a stage team and performing better in those environments. And those are the reasons why, right? You can talk about like a Rain, he's cool out there and he's going to perform the same. And when all the other kids are shit in the bed, he's going to capitalize, right? But that's not the same as going out there and embracing the moment and elevating the moment, right? Because that I think is key, because, mate, I've cast a lot of grand finals now. Some of them can be just fucking boring as batshit. Like, so we're also talking about the guy who gets to call and design the style that is being played. And it is an entertaining style. Like, I could even throw that in as another reason to add to him being a showman, because they go out there to play Counter-Strike. They don't go out there to bore the pants off of everybody. Like, I understand, I'm not a detractor of the whole VP process. I get it. I understand it. I can completely, from a analytical and breaking down the X's and the O's, I can get there, but it's not the most entertaining. Whereas FaZe, stand and bang, they will go to war with you and they will call your bluff. Like, and that is all coming from this man and his confidence in his players and what he knows he can get away with. And he knows that the guys on the other side of the server are going to be more nervous than him and his boys. Like, he knows that as a fact. Like, and that is why, like, some of the matches, you don't have to go back that far in history to think about the crazy good FaZe matches. You think just this grand final just gone by was fucking awesome. And then you go back and you think about the Ents game that we had in Dallas, that ancient match. And then I go back and I think about the match that they had that they played against Spirit when Harry and Hugo were casting.
Oh, the Antwerp.
Banger of a game. Yeah, that's just three just off the top of my head here, just riffing with it. And they've had plenty. They've had plenty of games, and even when they're on the losing end of it, right? They're still entertaining games. And karrigan is he's just the perfect example of this. And I'm interested to see how it matures, because he can never be the heel. I don't think there's any point where karrigan could ever become the heel. So he's kind of insulated himself that in the future too. So he will be a fan favorite in most places in the world just by being himself.
Yeah, if you notice, remember, guys, we're not only talking about outside the server. So as Chad pointed out, you also have to then look at the style of FaZe. And like the style, essentially, you gave the perfect analogy. It's like MMA or boxing or something. It's not about whether you're the champion. If you're the guy who's the mega entertainer one, who does the rock'em sock'em robots and stands up, people are going to love you even if you lose the game. You're going to make awesome fights when you lose. So another thing I would say about that is, I will say this is where I got really scared when we changed to like MR12, because I was like, guys, all the karrigan calls came on at round 28 and 29. But like, if people don't know, that's even something he clearly did change in his game. Because if you remember, I've known this guy a long time. That used to be the opposite of his problem. His problem was when he got to round 28, he'd play it safe and hope you won the game. Yeah. Now it's like he wins a lot doing it, but it's like he understands you swing for the fences. If you land, you win. If you lose, tell you what, it's going to be fucking memorable. No one's going to forget this crazy ass call where, like, if people don't know, that Ents call that he made there, if you know anything about actual IGLing, there's like a solid, like, I'd say maybe like 45% chance you walk in there, two people just decided, fuck it, I'm not rotating, and you just get clapped and you look like an idiot. Everyone will just be laughing. By the way, all those people, they'll tell you should be cut from the tournament, everything like. But tell you, if it lands though, no one's going to forget that round. I mean, I think people probably agree that looks like the greatest call in Counter-Strike, mate. It was insane.
Yeah, right. Because it builds on all of the great things with Counter-Strike and in-game leading that we talk about, but you very rarely get to see it pay off in that fashion. And that's not just because that's not just because, like, hey, in theory it doesn't work. It's usually because people don't have the balls to call it. Right, because that's another thing.
Yes,
the mind game between the in-game leaders is one thing that we have a very difficult time trying to discuss, and I try and do it with the live casting. I've been trying to do it a little bit more recently, but it's like the conditioning of your opponent and then hoping for a reaction, right? And then I label it as like, they're chasing their tail or they're behind the 8 ball or whatever, but it's essentially one person's moves dictating what this other guy is trying to do to catch up. And unless you can have the perfect call to stop his next call, or you can have like a counter that will, be ahead of his play, then you're going to be chasing his ghost. And that's how I used to call, because I got to call a lot of more pattern CS. Like I remember when we had the Mirage stuff, I was able to set smokes that look like the same strategy, but just change the finish. And from that, like, oh, okay, shit, they've just done an A split, same smokes. We'll expect the A split again. Your B guy's rotating away. We've just fucking split B. Okay, bang. I beat you by rotation. I didn't even have to fucking shoot you. Like that for me was that's the most euphoric calling, is when you can outmaneuver your opponent's expectation. And that, like, that's not even putting your pieces in the right place to execute. That's your pieces running into an empty bomb site because you have just outbrained the other guy. And that's like, for me as an ex-in-game leader, that's my favorite part.
And then there's actually another part I did want to pick up on the stuff he does outside the server, because actually from knowing karrigan for a long time, that's an area I did see evolution, which is, you're right, he would do the props before when he was a player, he would do the rattle and he would do the thing. And obviously, if people don't know, he used to also online, he'd shout to the other players, like a lot of them did, But one thing he didn't used to do, and I like the way you framed it, is that he's somehow mastered, he's allowed to cheekily trash talk, but he'll never be booed like karrigan is. He'll never be booed like, my boy Device used to get booed by people, like he'll never have the crowd against him. So it's like somehow he's mastered. You can put some spice in, but it doesn't wreck it. And I'll tell you an example, right? That he used to not do this back in the day. I can tell people this. He used to before, believe it or not, because this is the thing. He doesn't want to be a villain. You're right. He wants to be liked. Like, he's a very amiable guy. He's one of the most amiable players you ever meet, by the way. He's a very down-to-earth guy. But behind the scenes, here's the difference. He used to just tell me this shit behind the scenes. Like, I'll give everyone a little story where I'll be vague on the details, but you'll be able to guess half of it. And in your case, you'll guess a part they'll never guess, but it'll make it funnier. Okay, so it goes like this. So back after they lost that Boston Major, Chad, right? Believe it or not, because you remember before that, the main team that was beaten was SK Gaming, wasn't it? Now, I don't know why, but I had sort of, a bit of friction with SK Gaming. Maybe I didn't want to see them be number one anymore, Chad. And obviously, best person to beat them, it's my boy karrigan and FaZe, right? So all I'll say is, we were sort of like putting our heads together, coming up with different plans. Maybe we could try this map. You could like bait them into this, all sorts of shit, trying to mastermind. Because by the way, Chad does this as well behind the scenes, whether he says it or not. When you're an analyst and you think one team should be better, eventually you start just like going, it's not like Star Trek, like some like fucking principle where I can't interrupt. I'll just get involved. Have you ever thought of doing this here? Like, they're doing, you just get involved. You tell some player, you're better than him, just fucking kick him out the team. Like, you get involved. So basically, here's the joke for you, your benefit. So it was about 3 a.m. and we were in Ukraine, no more details given. And we're having this conversation, right? You could imagine where it might be. No, listen, they think it's a hotel bar. 3 a.m., Ukraine, right? This is also where the best combos happen, by the way, boys. We're having a combo, putting our heads together. And after they lost that Boston Major, and I think this is actually maybe when they'd even lost Katowice, or maybe just before, I'd have to remember it. So Star Series, obviously. I remember karrigan telling me privately, I said to him something like, look, you do realise if you keep losing, no one will ever care that you won the smaller tournaments. No one will ever care that you were in every final or every set. I said, essentially, in this lineup, they're only going to look at the names, mate. And he even said to me, I've told the story many times, he doesn't mind me telling it. He even said to me, oh, no, you're right. With this lineup, I should win everything or I was a loser. And I remember thinking, like, dude, if you said that in an interview, dude, that's going to blow again, that is going to be the most legendary. The difference is back then, he thought, like, I don't want to trash talk. I don't want to be rude. So if you notice now, he does do it, dude. Now, if you notice, like, for example, he does it. If people don't know, what's weird is he actually does like Nico on some level. It's some sort of weird in-game thing that they have. It's not really like a personality issue. But I'll tell you what, I noticed ever since FaZe started winning and being clutch, he's put some little cheeky lines in there. He's done a few winks towards that storyline that we're all supposed to pretend doesn't exist, but secretly is on the back foot. Look, now he sort of gets it, because I agree. I've never seen anyone manage that way. It's like, because you're right. Snappy's just a very blunt guy. So when he says, like, I think I might be the Danish game leader, fans like, ooh, call out of karrigan. Okay. Yeah. No, he just means he thinks he called the game well. Like, karrigan's doing it in like a subtle way where it's like it could come off as trash talk, but at the end of the day, it actually checkmates your opponent here. It's like, how do you respond? Because he's trash talking you, but everyone loves it and everyone's like, oh, thanks, karrigan. That's brilliant. So I think he's nailed that as well, mate. He's fucking amazing at that.
The full package, Mr. karrigan. Yeah.
So who's number two then? Yeah, who are we moving on to? Oh, go on if you've got some more.
Yeah, no. Number two. So this one, you mentioned his name just before, but karrigan. And karrigan, I think, is whether he wants to be or not. He probably should have played the heel. He probably should have lent into that more. But I think that he did when he was a heel for a period of time there. Whether even though
for the reasons we all know, sure.
Yeah, but also I think karrigan has a very interesting story, which, I think we've definitely highlighted, but I don't know if people really think about how much this would have warped the way he would think about his career, because he essentially had to rebuild it. So in the beginning, he's playing in the very first, the DreamHack major, right, in Jönköping, and he's qualifying through the BYOC. I'm pretty sure his team beat my team. Like that was the one with like Robin and those type of guys, right? I'm pretty sure with AZ, and I think that was that his team?
Could be.
Fuck, I should have checked that. But either way, I know he was at that very first major, regardless of the BYOC thing. It doesn't really matter. But his story, right, throughout, then he's doing analyst desk stuff, right? And then, he's up there and he's in his suit. That's when I was a player. I'm playing at the major, and him and Hiko are fucking the analysts. Like, what a weird world we live in. So he's having to learn from that perspective, how to do this job and when to interject and when I can speak. And obviously, he's quite high in terms of social intelligence. So that's not something that's difficult for him, because you see it if he joins a cast, right? When he joins us at Pro League or whenever, his commentary is great, because he understands, okay, I'm a color commentator essentially. When the action's about to happen, I shut up. He does things like I do, like chip-ins, like he knows like the important information while the play-by-play is going. If I give this information, it'll help the play-by-play. And all of those things right there have kind of factored into him as a human being, as a player. And then he went on to build this like brotherhood of a team, which is pretty funny considering what
it's all right.
the news
Yeah, the current context, sure. At the time of recording.
He essentially like had built this whole team and a brotherhood to insulate them from the outside world, because of all the negative stuff that was around them with the Hunden stuff and all of that nonsense. But with what he had built there, from the outside looking in, he had built something that was admirable, right? He's built something that people would look at and go, oh shit, like this doesn't really exist, at least front facing, at least the heart on the sleeve. Because sure, the thing that I think was kind of off the mark was the crying in the video with Stown and stuff like that. That's probably
it wasn't well received.
But definitely still, putting the emotions out there, which is something that is very, very key. karrigan is the showman because he whether people believe it's him or not, the person that he's portraying is so raw, right? Is so like emotion filled, and like he speaks about it himself, like like Jordan, like building these reasons to be motivated to play against these teams, and building reasons within the team for them to want to fucking go in there and destroy their opponent and everything like that. So he built all of that, and then when it would come out in the stage, well, he's a good speaker. He was good in the interviews, right? He would know what to say, whether it was appeasing the crowd or whether it was, being a little bit cheeky like a karrigan. He kind of had this like blend of being able to do a little bit of everything. But I really did the thing where I think that, and probably best for his mental health and everything, considering the community, that he didn't lean into the heel stuff more. I don't think it's for everybody to do, but he had the perfect opportunity, and so did Glaive. The two of them had the perfect opportunities to lean into this fucking heel type characters, especially when you're out there and you're at the time best team in the world, or considered one of the best teams in the world. And people are, or like other players, mate, like I'm doing interviews with these guys and some of them are hungover, and me and Jason are doing these interviews and we're trying to coax things out of players, and they'll gladly talk shit about karrigan when they're hungover and stuff. And then, we don't like him. Nobody likes karrigan. Like, and that's the thing as well. karrigan brought that drama with him. And I think that right there is something that, I don't know if I do think we need it, because not everybody in this world is nice. Like, I think that's a fucking bullshit thing to think. There are some people in this world, I think karrigan's very lovely. I have only ever had the nicest of run-ins with karrigan. But for other players, like, he's going to talk shit in practice, or they're going to do shit in practice that is going to irk players. And then that builds into the storyline, because these other players don't even know. But because they're so fucking fixated on hating this guy and what he represents, and maybe the little things that he does that they don't like, they bring it into the game. They're now more invested in wanting to beat him, which then helps everything, because he's making the matches more than just about the match. And I think that is something which I don't know if he did intentionally, but I think that's something that he brought to Counter-Strike when he was at the top of his game over the last like 3 to 4 years. And then I add in like the spice of, he got to work as an analyst and he got to do all these little things along the way, which just help refine being on camera, because a lot of these players aren't comfortable being on camera and talking. And karrigan's someone who's never had any issues with it. You watch the documentary thing that ESL had done with the BBC. He's the main character, right? I know Maui's saying he's not but in that he is the main character. And you get to see this emotion and all this that we're talking about. And they made a whole thing around him because his personality was so big, right? And that is probably the bit where I tick it off, because otherwise I might have been umming and ahhing and comparing him to some other different names and, is he the right guy to fit the bill here? But I think because of the impact that he had with that type of stuff as well, and then again, we talk about the play style. HenryG have had the most explosive CT-sided play style maybe in the history of Counter-Strike, and that has left a lasting impact on the way the game is played today, which has made quickness of decisions the talking point. How we know how to solve the puzzle, at least we did in CSGO. How quick can we solve the puzzle? How quick can we react to this? And on top of that, having the full support of his team to blindly follow him into battle, being this big persona, giving these speeches, that goes back to the brotherhood thing. By building that, when he makes that call, and you're like, why the fuck are Tessus and Shush evacuating the bomb site, right? They have no reason to be doing it, and they're making this crazy plan. It's like, what the fuck are HenryG doing? That's karrigan. Right, that's him, and that's the faith that they had in him, and that was all part of the way that I kind of viewed their team. I think that's what we all thought when karrigan left. That the whole heart and soul of got kicked. The whole heart and soul of the team was ripped out, and that was that was because he was the front man. He was the lead singer, and he was the one that gave the team some type of personality where you love him or you hate him, that people could support or barrack against. And I think he gave Counter-Strike some good levels of entertainment over the last couple of years.
On the stuff like you said of his origin story, because I agree, the crazy thing of this one is he absolutely, that meme where people go, that was the start of Bro's villain arc. Like, he could have done that, I agree. If you look at his pro career, he had a very tortured pro career. I mean, I've told the story a million times back in the day on By the Numbers. There really was, at the end of Source, like a Facebook group in Danish called like Fuck karrigan, and every single Danish pro was in it. And it was like, essentially the joke was, it's like they had a tree house, like no karrigan's allowed. It was mental, like, and that's always one thing I found so crazy, Chad, because you bang on the money. Even when he was a nobody as a player, this is one of the most actually socially outgoing Danish players ever. He would go out of his way to talk. By the way, even in the modern day, he's one of the few people who gets that thing I said earlier of just reach out and we could do the trash talk. Like, I've criticised stuff like when he was banging the desk at Stockholm. He's told me a million times, I don't care what you get me, Richard, on this, but say what you want. Like, so you guys do you're great on the desk. You know what you're doing. I'll handle it in the game, and we'll just, the results will speak for themselves. So he gets that. But I've always thought it's so crazy that so many of the pros, that actually triggers them. They hate that part. They think he's being fake, but I do think it's authentic. And quite frankly, the reason why it's so tough for me that I've had to be a critic of it is because they haven't just won the championships, unfortunately. They didn't get the majors, is because part of me does know this, if they had won, this would be the greatest movie story ever in Counter-Strike. This was the guy where, I mean, think how many years he was in the wilderness, mate. And then he didn't just become an IGL. It's not like he like Nitro, I swapped to IGL, and that's where I make my game. He kept open as well. Essentially, this is why I do believe that storyline that thinks he is the main character. But I don't blame him, Chad, because here's why. Because I actually think if you went through that many years and you believe in yourself, and then eventually the only way you get to the top is you've got to make your own blood. You've got to become an IGL. Remember, people forget he replaced Snappy. It was pretty fucking good. He replaced Snappy. He kept open. He had to build up his own crew of guys one by one. None of them were famous players before this. Some of them might not be since. We'll see after the fact. We'll see if these fucking moves do. He built it all up himself. It's like, I can't blame him for essentially being, I think genuinely he's sort of grateful to have one crack at this at the end. I think he actually thought maybe his career was done. Maybe he was going to be like in the North Wilderness into like where, like no one knows where AZ is now. You know what I mean? Like he could have been off in that position. Not only in the games he being fired, but outside of the game, the way he's crafted this personality, I get the feeling he just like he loves the moment exists still for him. And that's why he's going to seize it. And like I say, the actual part that is a killer for me is, I can say, well, maybe he shouldn't have put the game on his shoulders and gone for that round. You're not the main character, kid. But I've always said this. If he had won these majors, one, those storylines would bang even harder. And then two, I'd even have to just give it up to him. I'd have to go, actually, sorry, mate, you are the main character. Like, fuck me and everyone else. I guess we really were all wrong. It's actually a brilliant, inspirational story. Like I say, if you were to make a movie, you'd make a movie. But in the movie, like that document, in the movie, he wins at the end, of course. Yeah. It's Rocky, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing. That's the bit that's missing. Of maybe he can pull it off now with Liquid, right? He's gonna have a hard time building that like brotherhood type environment again. I don't think he's gonna have to go for a different tact. maybe this could be the sequel. You know, maybe the first movie may end on a bit of a sad note, and he gets stabbed in the back by fucking Stown and Yabby, and there's blood everywhere and there's tears. But I think that the fact that a few of those, well, not a few of them, the fact that the big ones eluded him is probably a mark that he wants to get rid of. And I imagine it's like, mate, him and Yakinda in the same team. I don't know how that's gonna fucking work. I digress. Where am I going with this? Yeah, I think that. It's a wild. I've kind of put myself on ice this week, Duncan. I'm not doing any. I'm not doing Talk Count. I'm not doing HLTV. I'm falling back into the thought.
Yeah. It's all bubbling under the surface. Yeah. We're all thinking about it. By the way, if you don't know, fans, the people like me and Chad and others who are like lifers in CS, you on forums talking all the fucking time behind this. Yeah, I can't believe he's doing that. What the fuck is heroic doing? Of course, we love that shit. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, this is the juice, right? This is the time where this is the stuff when you wake up and you're like, what the fuck just happened overnight?
Well, this last week's been amazing, hasn't it? You're even in the scene and you wake up like, what's going on? Where's all this? We're not getting this info. Where's this going on? It's mad, isn't it?
And the info you do get, it gets completely wrecked the next day because the opposite fucking thing happens. You hear from like one guy, he's like, oh yeah, this is definitely happening. You wake up and this guy's signed to this team. You're like, what? This guy just told me, and this guy's in his team. And it's like, what? It's so crazy out there at the moment. This whole Falcons thing is really going to fuck everything.
Sure.
Well, I don't know if it's going to fuck everything up. It's going to shake everything up in a big way.
Yes. Could be awesome. Who knows? Crazy. Who knows? Exactly. By the way, one thing I want to bring back is, though, a point you made that was very subtle is there's a real world. I'll even give you the obvious pinpoint in time, Chad. After the online shit with the Hunden stuff, because as well as it wasn't just the Hunden thing, it was the Hunden thing plus they were thought to be onliners. And then when they came to LAN, they actually were never even that bad. People over it. They almost made the final of that first major, but they weren't in the finals initially and they weren't winning. So everyone had two reasons to hate them. They're onliners. By the way, every other pro loves to hate you if you're an onliner. And then two, you dared to also you betrayed Astralis. By the way, you couldn't have a worse storyline if you're a Danish fan. So here's the moment where, for real, Cadian would have either been forced to be a heel or he breaks. It's that moment of that fall finals after that major where he goes out and he does what I think is actually straight fire trash talk. He goes, we're about to play Astralis. By the way, perfect timing, Cadian. They're not even that good at the time. They had that old lineup of players still. Oh, this is when they got the new lineup. It's a brand new lineup. They just scuffed on with Zipnik still there. And he said that line, by the way, perfect. His team's better. He goes, this next one is going to be bragging rights for years. And I'm like, oh my God. But then I always tell people this, just watch when he walks on stage. He actually bought the story. He thought, well, everyone here knows I'm but he didn't know that little kids in Denmark might not even know what happened at the major, mate. They just know Astralis. They know Glaive. So he walked in, if you remember, everyone was booing him. They're like, boo! Yeah. And then meanwhile, everyone was in that stadium wanted Astralis to win. And then Astralis beat them. And dude, in that moment, remember, this is before you've ever won a tournament, been in a final. In that moment, he actually was going to be forced to be the heel. Everyone was trying to, but I can tell he didn't want that. And I don't know how he did it. I'd have to go back and look for the time. How he turned being a heel like that. Dude, 1 year later at I Am Rio, dude, he had the fucking Brazilian fans cheering for him at one point in time. This guy's a fucking alchemist or something. How did he do that? He actually did the hardest move ever, which is turned from real heel into beloved. The joke is right now, aside from karrigan, he's the most loved fucking guy in the whole game. In fact, I'll tell you right now, Chad, you nailed it earlier about how if you do this right, people who don't follow the game will know you. I know people in League of Legends, Chad, who tell me so at Cadian, he's basically a top 5 player or something. I'm like, oh, your fucking mind. No, but here's the thing. That means he won. His marketing has killed it so much that you're remembering that 1v5 clutch and you've seen him on camera. You just think he's fucking the star now. So I think that is one of the most underrated sort of turns I've ever seen. It's impossible.
We didn't even mention the whole breakfast buffet situation with him and Glaive either, which is as far as
one where supposedly they were going to blows or whatever, right?
Yeah. I think they were just talking shit. I think they were just talking shit around, the buffet, which is still fucking awesome.
Yeah.
How often does that happen with people in person?
But it never leaks out normally though, mate. It never leaks on stream though, yeah.
Yeah, and this one, the fact that it did a little bit, and we wanted to run with it there at Pro League. We wanted to not to embellish it or anything, but it's still a storyline to make the game. It's already the derby. It's already the thing that fucking all of Denmark are sitting there ready to watch and get into. And now there's a little bit of extra flavor, and you've got Glaive, at the time considered the greatest in-game leader of all time because of the Astralis connection and everything. And Cadian doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I don't give a fuck who you are. I'm better than you right now. That's
I love that. It's so good, isn't it?
it's great. Like, and those little things that, again, it returns to the competitor thing that we were talking about before. Like that is where this stems from. These guys have an ego. These players that pretend like they don't have an ego. Maybe I can say ZywOo doesn't have. No, I reckon ZywOo has an ego, but maybe he just doesn't know how to express that ego. But they all have to have an ego. You can't be a competitive Counter-Strike player and just be like, oh yeah, we lost, cool. Let's like, you wouldn't be in the team. Your teammates would be like, who is this fucking knob? Like, what? We're not playing with this guy. He's not invested. Whereas karrigan was the opposite. The fire that you could see, like in his eyes, giving these speeches, like that is the stuff. You know, you go to war for somebody like that. That's like the Braveheart shit. Like that's what he was doing. He was doing that type of stuff, and that right there. And he would let it be captured on camera, and not a lot of these guys would. A lot of them would, you know, they would be too scared to let that happen. But he was happy to let that be the case, and I think that he's enriched the scene a lot with the way he's approached it the last couple of years.
By the way, on that topic as well, of that the bragging rights line, this is where I love to do this thing called counterfactuals. You think what would have happened in a different scenario, right? People don't think that one through. So at the time, that was the ultimate egg on his face. And not least because after that, they pretty much did beat Astralis. It's just that one time when he even said, this is for all the marbles. Like, so he even like fucked himself, right? But here's why it's so sad it didn't work, Chad. Because, mate, imagine how legendary that moment would be if he had put Astralis in the dirt in Denmark, right there, Glaive, mate, that would be like one of the most, that would be more legendary than the 1v5. I'm telling you right now, people would have that line, like, he'd probably have like t-shirts bragging rights, you know, like, it'd be insane. So already, that's like I said earlier in the intro. He swung for the fences. Look, he fucking missed on this one, landed on his ass. But tell you what, if he'd connected, that would have been legendary for all time. And then I'll just say on the ZywOo one. I know what you mean. In general, right, he seems too amiable. But if you ever remember when me and you were on Blast, right, this is where people don't know what I can bring to a broadcast. You remember when we did that Blast premiere? And it was when Simple finally beat ZywOo again. And we brought him on the interview. And everyone knows, normally you go, and what do you think is ZywOo being number one? And then he's going to go, well, of course, you know, he deserved it that year and I wasn't on the game. I didn't ask him that, Chad. I just waited and I just went, you don't, because I know Simple. I just went, you don't actually think he's better than you, do you? And he's like, no, of course, instantly. No, of course not. And by the way, if you were a Simple fan, the fucking table rose 3 inches off the floor when it said that one. Everyone was loving that. All I'm saying is this, Chad. Give me about this much fucking, I would say vodka, but it's French or whatever. So we'll say like pastis or whatever that thing is that tastes like anisette. Give me that much and a camera and let me ask the right questions. Like basically all I'll ask him is stuff like, thing is, you are really good with the output. You'll never quite be on that level like Simple. Give me the right shit talking angles and I'll get it out of him. I'll get him to say, because here's the thing, I reckon what you'd have to do with him is I'll build him up and I'm going to have to make him just snap and sort of like cut me off. And it's like, I'll sort of be the bait and I'll get it out of him. I'll tell you, I'll get him to say, like, you know, Simple's time's gone. He's here now. Besides, you know, he's not talking. I get it all, mate. I get it all. But anyway, that's beside the point. To go back, though, on the topic of the in-game stuff, let's talk a little bit about that. That is the thing that I think is actually, it's sad because this just shows you have to either be in the scene or you have to have, in some sense, either watched a lot of strategic Counter-Strike or been an in-game leader to really know how genius what karrigan did was. Because as you said, look, there's other teams where you might be great on camera and your team might be awesome, but maybe I won't say the names, maybe they're Danish, who knows, right? But in the game, you watch it and you're like, that was just a normal, like, 2-2-1 split. Like, wasn't even the strat. Like, that was almost like they just shot him in the head, right? If you watch karrigan's game, dude, on both sides, it has to be him. First of all, I'm sorry, I don't believe any of those players is like a first ballot Hall of Famer. Maybe Stown, if he keeps going, could get there. None of them for me are like the god players. And then you look on T side, the entire bloody game's his mid rounds. Doesn't he look like they actually tried to do the initial strat with Spawn? He's just calling all the, and then, like you say, CT side, it's unbelievable the fact that like they don't even second guess the call ever. They just and he's doing the hardest commit rotates ever. Like I say he's doing the CT version of the karrigan call. If you rotate out the site and they just walk on and plant, you look like an absolute dickhead. And he's doing it and just committing to it. And so when it lands, that's why who isn't a fan of heroic? Even if you don't like karrigan, surely you like watching them play. It's fucking amazing, isn't it?
You remind, like, the T-side stuff was mental. Like, Overpass is a great example of just the crazy bullshit that he would attempt. Like, they would just send like guys from short up connector to A, and then the bomb would still be outside monster, and then they'd just have like 2 guys attacking A with 1 guy going B in a 3-on-3, and it's like, well, if you don't walk into the B site and kill this guy, the round is over. And karrigan is the guy going out monster with the fucking bomb and an AWP while his teammates are fighting A with AKs. It's like, well, this doesn't make any sense in any world, but if it works, this is going to look fucking awesome. And you sitting there going, but there's 15 seconds left, and me and Alex are going mental, and it like that is when I'm excited for Counter-Strike. When those things that you don't expect, they're kind of breaking the way that you view the game, are happening. And that is something that karrigan was able to bring with this heroic team. Sure, it took him a couple of iterations to get there, but that recipe that they had, even though they didn't stick the landing on the big ones, again, this was the stuff that was exciting. This is the stuff that got us all, everyone thought heroic was going to win. And the reason was because of what they were doing. And then when it got to the big games, they either got counted or that was the thing that we were stuck on, right? Was the online to LAN. Because online, the hesitation doesn't exist, right? You don't care. Like, okay, well, I'm in my bedroom or I'm in the office and we lost the round. The ramifications are we all look at each other and go, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. But in the arena, if karrigan says do this and you hesitate by a split second, that timing window that he has, that only he can picture, the thing, that information, and if you don't follow that, then it's going to leave this gaping void and you're going to lose the round. And that was what I think, at least I thought, was the disconnect in the beginning and was going to be their biggest struggle. I don't know if that was their downfall. I don't know what. I have a hard time. So some of them were just bottlers. Like some of them just couldn't do what they could do in the other big games. And that's the thing that I think let them down ultimately. But they obviously had other ideas. Maybe this is the thing as well. With the news we know now, the way that we frame karrigan may change in the coming days, depending on what the likes of Stown and Yabby say. Because if they come out and they're like, well, no, like we were doing this, or, he was doing so much for the camera, he wasn't putting in so much prep time. Imagine if that shit comes out, then it's going to be like, well, fuck, like he was just a bit of a poser. But as far as we know right now, karrigan's the fucking man of that team. He was the heart, the soul, the face, everything.
Also, in line with the whole main character thing, as well, again, this is where it's perspective you have, guys. If I'm an analyst, if they lose the game, I have to critique. Should the IGL, who's mega involved, be the AWPer? Especially because, let's be real, you're not 0.75 kills per round AWPer. Like you aren't the great one. So I can critique that all day long. I did it with Jane before he sort of proved himself. The problem is, though, if I put myself in the position of either being myself or a player, dude, that's like also if I've waited my whole career for my one shot, you better not lose it. Mate, this is the dream. I'm fucking like that. Like if they'd have won that Rio Major, he would have been the MVP and he's winning the clutches and he's big dick orping and he's making the calls and he's on camera. It's like, mate, like this is my game, motherfucker. Like this is karrigan's game. Like I can't lie, as a player, that's a bad turn on. Like that aspect of it, even though I might critique it as an analyst, I can't blame him. That is sick to also be trying to be the AWPer too.
And I even forgot after Flashpoint when he's walking up the road and he's got the backpack on and he's shirtless in LA. How many players are doing that? How many players are giving their raw, like unfiltered thoughts on the situation? And you get a bit of sympathy there. That's pretty good. That's not too bad either. Like again, return to the key of this. This is entertainment, and people can get behind that. People can understand that. It was a weird time for everybody with like all the fucking COVID bullshit. Like it was a time where that was greatly appreciated, I think, because it was like, oh shit, like this is the human side, and that is the one thing that we have in abundance, but is neutered for some reason, because I think everybody's so scared of just getting chewed up by this. It's obviously not everybody in the community, right? It's the vocal minority. We all know that. I want to make sure that I outline that so people don't think I'm fucking lumping everybody in. But people are so worried about getting chewed up that they don't even represent the way they feel, and that I think is the most fucked part. I know they're not all loud guys with computer game players, and everyone's a bit more introverted, but just to represent the way you think about things as a player should be your right, unless you're some fucked in the head moron and you're out there. I wanted to say a racist or something crazy like that, but I don't know how we got there, Duncan.
Okay.
I have no idea how we got there. Definitely don't be expressing yourself if you've got any of that going on, man.
Yeah, just be yourself is very actually subjective advice sometimes, isn't it? I know. Okay.
I was just thinking some of the players I know, maybe they shouldn't be themselves. Maybe it's a good thing that they keep it to themselves. Jeez. Oh, there's some rotten eggs.
We'll segue then. Who's the third pick? Who's the third?
Simple.
Okay.
I think Simple is the most polarizing character that we have in Counter-Strike. You love him because he's the GOAT, and you hate him because of the way he sometimes conducts himself. And I think that over the course of his career and the arc of Simple, from the very early days where he was just a teenage kid and he didn't really understand social sensitivities of a lot of things, and you get to see the way that then when he moves to America and the, why you bully me, like you get to see this guy evolve over all these years, but forward facing, because Simple is a confident person and he doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about him. He will always just be Sasha. And that right there, I think, is great because, he's him. And not only is that persona visible on social media or all of that stuff, it carries through to the server in the attitude that he plays the game with. He plays the game knowing he is better than everybody else. And you see that in the horrific clutches that he's lost that will haunt him for the rest of his days when he closes his eyes, when he goes to bed at night. And you see it in the moments of magic that we all remember and that we sit there and we are completely gobsmacked and in awe of, because nobody thought it was possible, or nobody thought that they would have the audacity to do that. And the two biggest ones that stand out just off the top of my mind is the clutch on Cash, right? Dropping down, the no scopes, right? Yep. The one button on the mouse down. And then the throwing the AWP over the window to
Nitro Duster one.
Clutch. Yeah. And you think about those and you're like, okay, well, yeah, you can solve the puzzle that way. And
the AWP one's the most ridiculous, isn't it? It's not even necessary.
No, so you could have, but you're styling on him. You're styling on him.
It's great.
That's the bit that sticks with us as people who are entertained by the GOAT, is because he's look, Device is an amazing player and he's had some amazing plays, but he's the type of guy who's going to run into the site and know that the AK is better in this situation and change the AK and then do the right thing and get the trade. Simple's the type of guy who's going to run into the site. He's going to see the AWP. He's going to have a teammate on 5 HP, and he's going to say, "Fuck all that. You go and die, and I'll kill everybody." Right? And because he knows that the version of the Matrix that he fucking sees is like nobody else. And that is the one thing that if he ever loses, then we lose Simple as the identity, right? Like that. As soon as he loses that edge that he has, that self-belief, which also makes him a bit harder for everybody to stomach, right? That's the reason
to relate
he is
to,
who he is.
sure.
Yeah, right. And I think that his growth as well as a young man is something that I also think is he allowed us to be a part of that by being an edgy teen and in his early 20s, and that was just kind of the world that he came from, to then being the mature on the stage giving the speech when the war's starting. And it's those words not only penetrated Counter-Strike, but penetrated the world at that time.
Sure.
And it was a very emotional thing, and it's something that like is a human thing that he, as somebody who a couple years before that, we think about all of the the bullshit he's involved in, and now he's somebody who's spreading this well, it's obviously not a positive message, but it was a message about it was about being human,
and stuff.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that right there is part and parcel of him as he's not being an entertainer, but that's what made him entertaining. All this full package. So I think that obviously his impact is more in the server than outside of the server when you compare it to somebody like a karrigan or a Cadian. But he still is someone who would, on his day, when he's in a good mood, right? This is the thing. He would play up with the camera, or he would, but just not to the same degree, and potentially because he didn't need to, right? That was the kind of the Forest stick. Forest didn't have to do interviews back in the day in 1.6 because he was the greatest. Like, his gameplay did the talking. Simple does a bit of the talking, but his gameplay is his attitude in the server. And, when you see what he does, like the signature wiggle, and the one that sticks out for me, the fact that this guy in a clutch against Ents on Mirage, that X7 one, where X7, like, we all know that if he had just taken a breath and if he had just played that out, and the round would have slowed down, it still would have been a sick clutch. it would have been so much sicker if he strafed out in that moment and killed the guy. It would have like 100 times sicker, not even just like a little bit sicker, like 100 times a better clutch, because he's done the play that he shouldn't have done and it fucking worked. And that's simple. Like, he's the guy that does the thing that it breaks our understanding of what's possible. And I think that's why he's number 3 for, well, I guess, is it ordered? Anyway, that's why he's my 3rd submission.
Right, on the whole personality thing, I agree with you as well. People have to remember, we first saw this guy in like 2014, so we're talking like 9 years to grow, have experiences in life, be on different levels of teams. If people don't know, what's weird is this, because I myself almost got lulled into this. When he had his GOAT year, and he was even like applauding Astralis for beating him, I was like, maybe he has sort of like, has he just learned how to fake it? Because I did used to tell him back in the day, look, it's my advice I follow. It's like, you can be an arsehole, but at least pretend not to be sometimes. Then people will give you a break. Like, I even told him once, you know what, somebody, you don't actually have to mean it to say sorry. You can just say sorry to someone. Like, that'll actually help you at times in life. I'm just saying. So basically, I have good advice for the kids out there. And basically, what happens is, over the years, I've realised, no, it's just authentic. Like, I actually think what happens is, once his game got, like, sort of, to some degree mastered, and then his teams got better, and then he was winning, that just takes away a lot of the frustration and the annoyance and what came out as the toxicity. But I do think he's actually been authentic most of his time in CS. That's why I think you've seen, in this last year, when he's had the hard times again, people have sort of turned on him a bit again, and it seems like now he's complaining a lot. He's been a bit mean to teammates. But I'll say this, right? In light of what I said at the beginning of the episode about, I wish him and Nico would trash talk each other and they could have done it in like an anime fashion. You actually did have an opinion like this a couple of years ago when Simple became the GOAT. I don't know if you ever said it on camera, so I'll bring it up, but it was a banger. Because on the one hand, it's kind of an evil opinion, Chad, but I fucking love it. And if I had a genie, it would be my first wish. And you know what it is. It goes like this. We wish that when he became the GOAT, he just kept the mega toxic personality. And essentially, he was just like, for real, like, you're fucking shit and I'm going to destroy you. And then he does destroy you with the 45 bomb. Like, in a way, he would have been the greatest wrestling heel of all time, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, because that's the thing. He was unrivaled. Like, nobody could touch him. And he was just, he could have, if he had lent into it, if the thing is, again, the fans wouldn't have let him get away with it. It's the fucking fans. But if he had lent into that, it would be epic. Imagine the face of our game is just this massive shit talker. Like, he knows I'm a noob. He'll call me a noob, right? Like, you're a fucking noob. Like, but I wish you would do that to actual pros.
Yes.
Like, this guy is fucking shit. Like, to be fair, I bet that's exactly what he's doing in the team speak. Like, you just, let us unfilter that. Let us just turn that little tap on. Let us just turn it. Give us a little bit every now and again, right? Because we're talking about ego. He's someone who has a massive one, and rightfully so, right? Like, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in the way that, like, without that, he wouldn't be the player he is today. Like, he just would not be. And that is this guy in a nutshell. It would have been fucking sick to just see him, even just for a short period of time.
No, I know.
Just for a little while.
I know.
Just a little while. Just give us a little while. He can still come back to it.
I know.
Maybe this CS2 stuff will unleash him. Maybe he'll international team, English all the time, maybe not loving the game. It might come out. It might creep out. We love it when the mask slips off a little bit.
Whereas I'll say this. I'm not saying he's being inauthentic, but sometimes when things are going too well and everything's awesome and they were winning like every match in 2021, for example, sometimes, this is what I'll be mean, he did sort of do that where when I think he's not totally authentic, like I do think he would trash talk this team and in scrims he probably is annoyed at KD and wants to beat him or whatever, but sometimes he would do what I call, this is just to be mean, the Michael Jackson voice. He would guys, I don't know. I've heard this guy, he doesn't talk like that, mate. He doesn't talk, and by the way, his teammates from his old teams, he's probably not like that in server when he's playing. When he do sort of, they might do a good game, but we can try, and me and Blade will figure out the thing we can do. Like, the problem with that is, again, we've noticed we've been categorizing people in this like show. If you're simple, look, you're already going to be the fan favorite because you're the GOAT of the game. When you go in the game, you deliver. You show us all we need to. You actually probably are well suited to be a heel. Like I say, you could live that role and be the best ever. I actually feel like, because the problem with that role, I mean, we kind of tied it in. Lotus karrigan's problem is he blew the Boston Major. Cadian's problem is he never got the big one. To really do the heel angle, to properly trash talk, you got to win as well. Like in the UFC, watch it, right? Notice how people are to Conor McGregor now. Dude, when he was on top, everyone worshipped him. Now they're just like, shut the fuck up. You never win. Whenever you win. It doesn't quite work if you don't have the game to back it up, right?
But that's why I love listening to Chael. Like, I like listening to his podcast all the time. Like, Oh, it's so good, man. Like, even if people aren't into UFC or fighting, they should listen to the way this guy talks about stuff. It is so good. And the way that he just, like, the way that he carries himself on Twitter and shit. If you want to see a troll, if you want to see someone who just talks mad shit to anybody, regardless, like, and that's the thing. Like, he's a he's an ex-UFC fighter. Like, he's going to talk shit because he knows he can get away with talking a bit of shit. But that's what he built his entire, like, persona on throughout his career, was just this guy who, he was fucking good, right? Maybe he doesn't get the flowers as some of these other guys, but he was good. Like, he was a good fighter, and he knew it, and that meant that it enabled him to talk shit, and it was entertaining. He is the perfect guy who should come and give a seminar to our players about entertainment. I would love to have that happen. Just have this guy explain to these kids, yo, you are wasting your careers, right, by just being mid. Even some of you who are like mid and pretty good, like you can elevate your personality like huge. I think it would be awesome to have someone like that. Actually, you could probably do it. You could explain it to most of them in the same fashion. It would be fun. Fuck. I was listening to one of his podcasts today, actually.
I totally agree. By the way, he's another person with the same thing. If he'd have actually won that title fight against Anderson Silva, mate, Dana White would have fucking woke up like, shit, won't go away. It'd be insane, wouldn't it? Because he would have just blown more. He would have been like as big as Conor McGregor if people don't know it's mental. By the way, there's two aspects on the in-game stuff. Because look, obviously, the whole point on this episode, whereas for the others, we've done a lot of the in-game stuff too. We don't have to do too much simple stuff. Everyone's seen the game. I mean, I've made this point a few years back, but when I really knew it wasn't all in my head, I wasn't overhyping simple, was, at the end of the year when they do the HLTV, like top 10, top 20 list, and then that Snipe to Guy doesn't like edit, he just puts all the clips together, the highlights that you had. And it's when each year, Chad, the simple one would be like an hour and a half long, and you were like, it's supposed to be 15 minutes, but then you'd watch it and you were like, holy shit, this is like someone's entire career in 1 year. So I'll just say this. Another reason he's the mad entertainer is, like, this year, Chad, he's having a down year. He's not that good, right? His rating for this year is 1.18, and he's gotten 0.75 kills per round. Like, spoil it. If you're a normal star player like Twists, that's a good year. That's like a career year. We're calling this guy like washed. And then obviously, I'll tie it to the part you said earlier. The thing that I love Simple for, he could trash talk me forever. I'll never diss him for this, is in the era when everyone started to save, this motherfucker never saw a 1v3 he didn't want to go for, because he always thinks he's getting that first kill. Everyone else, like, they're doing, like, my boy Device, he saves more than like fucking some like 1950s grandma, doesn't he? He's fucking insane. Simple, he doesn't even, it's like he doesn't, well, here's the thing. For me and you, it is a bad 1v3. He's going to win it, isn't he? Like, we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. That is the ultimate entertaining fashion. Like, the amount of fucking 1vx's I've seen him go for, and then win, by the way. Ones where even I'd be like, if you could talk as the coach, I mean, well, maybe back off here, we've got to kill, save the AWP. Like, he never saved the bloody AWP in his life, it feels like.
Yeah, no, that's bang on. I think this is the thing that, like, while we're casting, and if it's Simple alive, or if it's like Zywo is another one that you'd lump into that.
Yes.
When they're alive, and we're like, oh shit, it's Simple, and the people on the fucking forums like, oh, they're overhyping Simple. It's like, have you not been watching Counter-Strike? Have you not been watching this guy on your screens for the last decade? There is a reason that he has that reputation, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I know to all the rest of us this looks impossible, but I'm sure that this guy, first of all, doesn't think it's impossible, and then second of all, has a very good idea of how he wants to win it. Right? And that right there is the reason. Like, I suspend belief when Simple is in a situation. And it's the same thing as, like, I'm getting a little bit that way with players like Rops in the clutch now as well.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
Especially he needs to be in a bit more of a winnable position. But if I see it, and I know that when is Rops not going to be calm? Rops is always going to be calm. He's never flustered. So if you're going to give him jewels, like what happened with Complexity on that overpart, if you're going to fight Rops, you will lose. Right? Simple's going to be more creative about the way he beats you. He will make you do something. That's the other thing that is fucked, that people at home have no idea about. You are against the GOAT, and you're in the circle.
And everyone knows it, right? It's in their head.
And I'm playing against the best player in the world. Holy shit. This is the boogeyman.
Half the reason they look like, when the fan goes, why did the first guy rush him? It's like, because he just makes you lose your mind. You think I can't win, so you just start doing stupid shit in the game,
and that's the aura that he has about him, and the fact that, like, on the stages he's going for even crazier shit than he would in the group stage. That's the thing. He knows the moment. He wants that spotlight. He probably craves that, because what better, like, let's be honest, the stages I played on, nothing, right? I played on like a couple of little ones, and it was good winning moments, good winning clutches, good getting excited. But mate, it is probably better than the best orgasm you've had winning a clutch like a 1-on-3 on stage with 10,000 people going nuts. If you just made the 3 other guys look like massive tits, like that. Simple's a rich guy, you know, he's a popular guy. We've seen the type of girlfriends he's had. He's got no issues slinging dick. He's, you know, but the thing he's not worried about is slinging dick. He's worried about winning clutches on stage. That's what these people live for, man. This is it.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about.
Oh, by the way, also on the topic of when you said the Rock, that's a great analogy because that's the same thing happened to me as Rock's powered up in this FaZe team. It's obviously the opposite end of the spectrum. Famously, we all used to say before he became the GOAT, bit too aggressive, Simple. You know, he can win you around, but he can. Yanko used to love that one. He wins you the game, but he also loses you a game sometimes by being too aggressive. Same thing. Rops is like, I've even told him when he was doing it bad, like, you are baiting a bit too much now, mate. Like, you might want to look into what happened to, like, Get Right and Happy and fucking Eco, because some of these rounds, mate, like, spoiler, if I don't see you on the bomb site, like, I know you're just fucking lurking a boiler, you idiot. Like, where else could you be? But then when he started to win every one of these rounds, same analogy, I had to just literally go, okay, normally I'm a know-all, but actually these guys, whatever they're doing in CS, I need to get my shit together because they're way ahead of me. Like, they know things up. Like, Robs is a good one because what he seems to conceive is possible in a clutch, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, I assumed if you went into this one, you know, they have a crossfire, this guy's going to steal. Same with Simply go into like there's some angle. It's like, this is a bad angle. You're a bit closer with the AWP there, aren't you? You just no scope some fucker and then turn it into 1v2. Like the shit they're doing. You said it there. You just suspend disbelief. You actually just sort of go, you know what? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about on this one.
Yeah, you have to. Like, look, we can talk shit about, you know, some of the other guys, and you can critique, oh, they did this, but these guys, you can't. Like, it's not fair to critique them like that way. You have to, unless they really drop off, which, hey, who knows what's going to happen with CS2.
Okay, you teased us earlier, so you don't necessarily totally know who number 4 is. So who are you thinking of at the moment? And what's the reason why you're not just sure on number 4?
Because I want to see how far I can really push this. Now, I think of a couple names. So, like, an Apex would come in, but it would probably be from more like, I don't want to say a meme perspective because I don't think Dan's like a walking meme, but I think his iconic moments are captured with how emotive he is, right? Yes. But then in terms of him being a showman in that regard, he definitely has a big personality and he presents it. But then I was also thinking, okay, somebody who in the server had a lot of fire in the belly and would initiate the shit talk when he felt disrespected or when he felt that these people, it was cold zero, right? Back
true.
In his
yes,
time,
people forget that,
right?
For that whole thing, don't knife me, all that shit,
Yeah, and he would bring this level of pride of like, you do not know who the fuck I am. Like, I will fuck your world up. And that was really cool because that was entertaining to watch, especially like in the Blast studio. And the Brazilians were always very, you know, they'd always get very loud. So he kind of fits into that group as well. But then I wanted to just give a cheeky nod or a throw into Henry. I know he's not a
HenryG. Wow. CSGO. Okay. It's only absurd you put him on the fucking. Even the idea you mentioned him in a CSGO Mount Rushmore, like. That's how you know that it was all fugazi guys. It wasn't real. They're all mates still. Don't worry. Okay. Well, you want him a 10, Henry? Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, for these show matches that we do, the reason that I'm throwing Henry in the mix is because he is, first of all, more than happy to play the heel. He goes out there like and he is more than happy. He knows his role when we're doing the caches. He's aware that, and this is the thing that maybe people who aren't British or Australian, they don't get it, but we have quite a rivalry with cricket, with the Ashes.
Yes.
Right? Actually, with everything, not just the cricket.
Rugby, everything, mate.
You know?
Everything.
Yeah. And that right there is like an extra little nugget that we can bring to the people and entertain them with. Like, because we're going down there for pure entertainment with that, right? Like the competition, we're playing, Henry and I are in the server. We don't want to look like noobs. I'll tell you that much. Henry and I don't want to go out there and look like fucking bots because we actually take pride in still playing Counter-Strike. Mate, Henry and I were playing CS2 the other day before we went to Oz, and we were playing against like S-Attack and Config and all these guys. Mate, Henry was absolutely...
He's getting mad when you lose rounds, right? Yeah, I know.
What are you doing? Bodying him. Henry was fucking just bodying these guys, man. Yeah, he was going nuts. He was bodying them. Like his aim was, and they were like complimenting him and shit. Like, Henry, you should go pro again. He was fucking destroying them. So we have pride in still playing Counter-Strike and like, letting a couple of the young bucks know, don't, if you see us at a matchmaking, don't be fucking around. Like we will still give you a run. But Henry, when the lights are on, and this is something that also for his casting, I think a lot of people maybe don't value as highly as they should, but he's a great hype man, right? So when he knows it's just as much, he knows the game and he knows what to get excited about, but he also knows how to elevate it for the viewer. Like he can make it more exciting than it is. And so the Cassius side of things, the lights are on. He'll play this heel. He'll play this character. When Dick Stacy's there, he's like, yo, Dick, okay, you're going to get your revenge on me from last time because I wrestled you a bit hard. So come give me a big push and, I'll do this big fall. And we're looking for costumes in the morning and we're finding a mask. Like, yeah, he's flat out, I'll wear a Lycra fucking onesie. And the lights are on. He's crawling up on the stage and he's thinking of all these lines and shit. He's like, Virtual, you bitch, right? Like he's got all this WWE type shit. He's crawling up on the mask comes off and he's barking, Australia, you fucking dogs, woof, 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 right? He's riling them up. He's talking shit to him. And he knows because that's all for the entertainment of the people there to be involved, to give them, a more interesting time. So I wanted to give a nod to Henry for that because I don't think there's anybody quite like him in the space.
No, that's a good shout. Yeah, it's out of left field. I wouldn't have thought of that one, but you actually, the more you say it, the more it makes sense. Like for example, here's an area where people don't get this, which is part of being good on camera with this sort of stuff. Is sometimes you got to take it on the chin. You can't always win. You can't always be the guy who was the line. And I'll tell you right now, without revealing too much, I don't think I'm giving away the trade secrets here. Henry doesn't enjoy an entire arena of people telling him Henry is his actual birth name is a wanker. He's doing a good job on his face. He does not enjoy that, I can tell you. But I'll tell you what, he knows no one else can do that. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee you, the second the cameras are off, there's a line of 1 million fans waiting to get a fucking autograph, telling him, I love that you come, begging him to come back next year. Like, essentially, look, you've done a good job repping the Oz side, but like, without dissing Hawker, it ain't the same without HenryG. HenryG was bringing a lot to his side of the card, right?
Yeah. So that was like essentially we wanted to debate and switch. Like we wanted to make it seem a little bit different, right? Because obviously Henry wasn't going to be there working and casting, which really cool. ESL gave us the chance to do the tri-cast that we were doing during the online stuff because me, Alex, and Henry are good mates. And it's really fun to be able to cast with your mates because hopefully it comes across. But with the stuff with the show match and him coming down, wanted to get like a bit of online drama and it worked. Like the amount of people who were in the next episode of HLTV Confirmed I was doing just asking in the thing, Sponge, talk about Henry. Like what's this?
Right.
And then you read all the comments on the Twitter of like, Sponge, why don't you want Henry to, like, I control fucking.
Like, just DM him, man. Just settle it behind closed doors, guys. You can be friends. Like, come on, guys. Your marks. You're falling for the bloody storyline.
It's beautiful. It was beautiful. And like Henry's just he pulled it off to.
I bet he was DMing you the whole time. Like, I can't fucking believe this is insane. Keep going. Because
like we're next door neighbors, like we're gonna talk about this shit and like come up with a plan and stuff. And Henry's was like, okay, well let's keep the reveal to the last day so we can have this. Like we'll lull people into thinking it is the longer this goes, the better it'll be. People will think it's real, like he's not actually there. And mate, we were even out when we were looking for stuff the morning of. Henry hid in his hotel room since like Wednesday, so he didn't get spotted.
So you could never be seen together, right? Okay. This is a fucking commitment to the bit here, man. Okay.
Yeah. But we went out. We had to get some stuff. We had to get some stuff for the show match. So we went out together and we were like, fuck it, not too many people will see us. And there was a couple of fans who saw us, but they came up, they're like, oh shit, Sponge, Henry, can we have a photo? And we're like, yeah, no worries, but just don't tell anybody until after the thing. And they all obliged.
Oh, that's cool.
Henry was even playing matchmaking games from the hotel because ESL would give us PCs and monitors and everything. He was playing matchmaking games with Aussies and they'd obviously work out who it is. It's an extremely distinct voice. Sure. And they'd be like, oh, Henry. And he was like, yeah, guys, all right, we'll win this game, but just don't let the cat out the bag. Like, let's keep this going, right? And they all did. And I thought it was great that everybody played along. And when we got there, it was still a big surprise for the majority. I would say, most of the audience.
Oh, yeah.
And he said he was walking down and people will get like maybe a bit aggressive with him, but like fuck you and shit, like he's taken it all on the chin. And then once we finished the show match and we threw to break, Henry, the people at home wouldn't have seen this, but Henry and I grabbed some handhelds and we were on there on the front of the stage and I just said to the crowd, I said, all right, look guys, like this is all good fun, right?
Oh, right, okay.
And Henry's my good mate, this is all for the entertainment, and we're glad you enjoyed this and everything. Like, get it out your system. Give us one more Henry's a wanker. So they all did that. And I said, look, we're about to do the first CS2 Tier 1 LAN final. We want to make it about the game and the players and give them the best. So can we not just have the whole chant the whole time while Henry's casting with us? Because it did happen in previous years when him and Matt were casting, or whoever,
yes.
So we wanted to avoid that, and we did. And then as soon as I'd said that to them all, and like, can we make it about? They're all chanting, "Henry's a legend," right? And it all flipped on its head. And then we go out in the crowd, and we're sitting there, and we're doing the next bit to like, the caster check in, and they're all doing it again, like, "We love you, Henry!" Like, and it's great because they all understand it's a bit. This is the great thing, and this is the same with the UK crowd, I would imagine, as the Aussie crowd. Like, just the understanding that this is fun. Like, this is not serious. We are playing a video game first of all, and we are here to entertain everybody. Right? This is meant to be fun. This isn't meant to be like, bullshit. So it was really, really well received, and I think a lot of people enjoyed it, which was good. And but without Henry like doing that, I kind of just follow his lead. He's kind of got this hypnosis over people. When we started Pro League, he was part of it was doing like a studio tour with Mac, and it's Mac's first time on like this level of broadcast. And Henry's like, just before the cameras come on, he's like, "Mac, when we get over this end, you're gonna do it. You do a front flip." And so Mac's like, the lights are on, and he's like, and they get over there, and then Mac does this front flip, and they're wearing in-ears and these mics. And I'm like, the first thing I think of is, fuck, they're gonna bring
impossible.
Yeah, like,
exactly.
And he does this front flip, and Henry's the guy coaxing everybody into it and shit. Like, he's got a quality about him when the lights are on that I don't think many people would give credit to. So yeah.
In a way, I will say as well. No, easily, because out of the game, obviously, he's fire. Look, Henry, you obviously were a fucking good player in CSGO. Like, you were, in many ways, you paved the way for Chad. You showed just go on broadcast and be amazing on the mic. Because the thing is, I also do think, now I think about it, man, he has so many underrated, iconic moments. Like, one, I still can't even, listen, I've watched MMA for about 20 years, Chad. I still can't even believe he had an actual feud with Mark Hunt. That already is like, That's almost, by the way, in a way, that's better than my thing with Shaq. Like, that was like Shaq came to fucking wrestle me, and then when he wrestled Carmack and almost killed himself, like, that was unbelievable. That was unbelievable.
So that was me wrestling Carmack. Right?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. I got it the wrong way around. Right, okay.
This is the thing that people don't know, like, about Carmack with that stuff. Like, he'll be in Henry's ear and he'll be in my ear at the same time, and he's like, "All right, so no matter what."
He's playing you off, like, right? You don't know who's going to betray who, right? Oh, that's true. Yes.
So he had done that over the years. So we were like, you know what? Well, fuck this. We're going to get Carmack.
Right. Okay.
Hunt there. So we were like, okay, well, no matter what happens, Carmack loses, right? We were going to throw him in this big, and we were like, Mark Hunt, he's this big guy, he's an MMA fighter. Like, I know that Carmack does judo, but Mark Hunt should.
You can't take Mark Hunt. I know exactly. Come on, look at him.
Yeah, but he didn't. Mark Hunt didn't commit. I think maybe he's worried about doing his fucking back.
All right.
So this is hilarious, Duncan. So Carmack's gone full fucking judo grip on me while we're trying to throw him in. So, and I'm now like on the ground, and the bed of cream pie is like next to us, and I'm just yelling to the other blokes. I'm like, take me down with him, just take me down with him. And they just grab this like whole thing of pie and just throw it on us. And I was like, I'm yelling, I'm at Carmack, I'm like, just go down. It's for the show. It's for the show. Yes. So eventually we had to I went down with him. It was hilarious. Yes. But we almost pulled down the fucking screen.
People don't know. The setup like that, like for real, like scaffolding could have just killed you, like for real. By the way, look, I obviously have my own bias, and it's not sadly a WWE one. All I'll say is Carmack, definitely not someone who will take the L for the broadcast always. Sometimes he did. This way, he really didn't want to take that L. Like he was determined Chad was going to be the one cream pie because he, like you said, he set the whole thing up. Yeah. By the way, I do have one like more real question though. It's an in-game one, which is, look, this is technically a bit tricky because I think some people do flame you for this, Chad. I think you're not bad at it. I wonder, did you consciously mimic some of Henry's style where when you're the play-by-play, normally you just wait until you've got a gap and then it's downtime and you give that. I noticed Henry was the first one to really do the good reactions. He was what the... You would always have those, and obviously with Sado, it was great duo. Did you intentionally mimic that? Because people know you do this in the machine casting duo, right?
Oh, yeah. I think it's important, right? Because it gives gravitas to the moment as the color. Like
Yes.
if the color is getting excited and it's not just the play-by-play like ramping and going high, it adds because the color's meant to be the expert.
Yes.
So if the expert's excited, it goes, oh shit, like this should be like, oh shit, the play-by-play is not overreacting. I should get excited about this. And sometimes, especially when you're in arena, you can overdo it because of the moment, but the moment's different. And I think that people have a hard time distinguishing that, especially if they watch from home, because a finals match is a finals match. Like it's a big deal, regardless of what they think is a pedestrian play or not. It's not a play on Facer at 1 o'clock in the morning with your homies while you're sitting in your underwear, you know, smoking a fucking blunt. Like this is paid for professional top tier Counter-Strike. This is legit shit. And you know, I think that a few of those things, like with Henry doing that, it's quite important to do in the right moments. I would definitely say, and I'd say we all probably overdo it.
Anyone who does it's going to do it a couple of times and miss, aren't they? I know what you mean, though. I'll give you the analogy. If you're a sports fan, you'll immediately know what Chad's talking about. One of the things I miss about Joe Rogan is he's rocked. He's rocked when he would just shout that in the middle of the fight. Like, look, half the time he wasn't always rocked, and sometimes it was like Joe Rogan just wanted the other fight to win. But like, those that you think about how many iconic memories you have of that. That goes with it as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think that Henry, in terms of, because I think these days, and maybe even back then, he had to start becoming more so because they were casting so much, like him and Matt. And when your play-by-play is always going to talk more than your color, but when they were casting so much, I think they felt like they had to share more of the load. So Henry became more of a hybrid than like a classic color. So I think that definitely, you know, played into, if people listen to him casting with Anders these days or whatever, even when he was casting with Alex, like he's doing a lot more like play-by-play or lead-in. Same with Jason. Like they both are, but they both have, you know, good intonation for doing that. Whereas for me, I stay out of that because I don't want to fuck it up. I'm too nervous about fucking up those moments. The way that we do it, me and Alex, is just so it's not them having to listen to the same thing all the time, especially in like shit rounds. I'll take trash rounds. I'll take full ecos. I'll go, oh, yeah, coming out, you know, I guess, because it's really easy to do that. Nothing crazy is going to happen. And if it does, Alex can always jump in and take that from me at any moment. But most of the time, it's just going to be just some shit tier kills and whatever. Nothing crazy happens. And then that way, it also gives me more time to do explanation, right, within those rounds. So I can talk. Kills happen. Alex doesn't have to jump in. I can play by play and then talk into the next important round. So yeah, but Henry definitely impact on the way I do my gig for sure.
To paraphrase the legendary DMX, I just love when y'all in my Patreon crew give me a bigger piece of cake to chew a hole through. Because obviously, one of the ways I'm able to support myself and make content like I do on this channel is thanks to my Patreon community and the likes of Ahmed Hadjou, Frisky, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and always a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question in my video AMA? Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest to interview? Maybe you want teasers, find out who I've already interviewed in upcoming episodes. Or do you want to take part in one of those lengthy online discussions that I do with my top patrons? Well, if any of these perks or more appeal to you, then put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today via the Patreon link below.